Release the files.
Tens of thousands of documents related to Epstein are refusing to release.
Thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of files.
They couldn't call it a suicide because it looked too much like a homicide.
Was it suicide or was it murder?
You promised. Now, deliver.
Jeffrey Epstein.
Is it true, sir, that you have what's been described as an egg-shaped
form, vague and definite, and I'm going to give you the first warning, Mr. Kubin, that these types of questions are not only argumentative, but directed in a manner to embarrass Mr. Epstein. If you continue with this type of question, I will adjourn the deposition immediately.
Sir, according to the police department's probable cause affidavit, one witness described your as oval-shaped and claimed when it was thick towards the bottom but was thin and small towards the head portion and called it egg-shaped. Those are not my words. I apologize.
Jeffrey Epstein's deposition that we got our mitts on. Now, who in the world would have seen his and be able to describe it in such elaborate detail? It's referred to in police documents as a witness, which of course that witness is a victim. Who else would be speaking to police to describe Epstein's? That would be one document in the many, many thousands of documents that we are being denied. Now, if there's nothing in the files, why aren't they being released? Bondi promised they would be released, yet now an abrupt about-face. Joining me, an all-star panel, much of the suspicion of the government at this juncture has to relate to videos. Videos specifically taken in the homes of Epstein around the world, flight logs where he would apparently ferry celebrities, millionaires, and more back and forth to his so-called Lolita Island, where underage girls perform sex acts. But in my mind, I'm concerned more so about the video from behind jailhouse walls. Dave Mack, Crime Stories investigative reporter who has poured through countless documents and interviews. Dave Mack, we first heard that there was a glitch in the video recording system where Epstein was housed behind bars. There were a lot of glitches that night, weren't there, Dave Mack? 2 guards on duty in view of Epstein. He could see them and they could see him. They didn't have to watch the surveillance video. Both of them either fell asleep or went online shopping at the time he committed suicide. But it's not just 1 minute. There's not just 1 minute missing from the jailhouse video. Is there, Dave Mack?
Correct. Nancy, that 1 minute that Attorney General Bondi has been popping about the reset of the video at 11:58:58, saying that was because it was a 1999 system. Well, that might be explainable if that was the only problem here. But in total, 2 minutes and 53 seconds of video appears to have been manipulated and is missing. They're able to go in and look at these computer programs and how they're used. They can tell when you make a cut in the video and when you join 2 separate pieces together. They can look and see from your keyboard strokes everything that's been done, to the point where they're able to see how this piece of video was cut, how it was then saved, another piece is cut and saved, and then the 2 pieces are brought together. The problem is when you do all that and then present it as supposed raw footage.
And it was absolutely titled raw footage. Raw footage,
yes,
which
ma'am.
means unedited. But you could see the jumps, as we call them in this business, the jumps where video is spliced together. I mean, I'm not even an expert in that, I just know a little bit about it, but I happen to have an expert with me right now. Todd Shipley is joining us, digital cybercrime expert, former detective sergeant with the Reno Police, 25 years in LE, law enforcement, and author, Surviving Cyber Attack, Securing Social Media and Protecting Your Home, author of Investigating Internet Crimes. It goes on and on and on. His expertise is this. Help me out, Shipley.
Well, I think like everybody's already said, these are not the raw videos. I've looked at both of the videos that they provided for download, and neither video is the original video. They both have been edited. Now, does that mean it's not the real video? No, but they compiled both of the videos that they allowed for release and edited them using, commercial tools. So it's clear that the United States government did not provide us with the raw video that they promised.
With us, everyone, is Mark Epstein. This is Jeffrey Epstein's brother, who doesn't have a dog in the fight, no skin in the game to opine as to whether Epstein committed suicide or not. But what he's saying is very, very disturbing. Day one, Mark Epstein, I was concerned about the markings, and I've prosecuted and investigated many, many homicides, more than I can count, and have investigated suicides as well to determine if they were homicides. And the first thing that jumped out at me was the marking on your brother's neck, which was a straight across horizontal ligature mark. And when someone hangs themselves, even from the side of a bed, think about Robin Williams, who committed suicide by use of a ligature from a doorknob. Okay, this is not a traditional hanging, for instance, from an elevated point. Even from that type of suicide from a bed, you would see a U or a smiley marking on the neck. This was a straight horizontal ligature mark, indicative of someone strangling him with a ligature from behind. It's a subtle but important distinction, which I will discuss momentarily with a forensic expert. Let me understand, Mark Epstein, you just stated that you learned about the suicide allegation from TV?
Yeah, I was actually in Norfolk, Virginia, having breakfast at a restaurant, and the television was on, tuned to CNN, and I saw my brother's picture appear, and they said that he was found dead from an apparent suicide. That's how I learned about this. I mean, the Justice Department report, they said they notified me. They did not. There's a lot of errors in the Justice Department report.
Why would they have lied about that?
Oh, they're trying to make it look like a suicide.
Why? Why do you believe the government? And I'm not one for conspiracies, Mark, at all. Why? Because I don't think people can keep their yaps shut long enough to maintain a conspiracy. That's why. But in this case, the refusal to release the files that were promised to us months ago, promise after promise after promise, the confusion around suicide v. homicide, the edited video. And again, we're hearing from DC, well, there's nothing in the files. Well, if there's nothing in the files, release the files. We have got, I think now, 4 suicides connected to your brother's case. 4 suicides. Virginia Giuffre, your brother, his French counterpart, according to law enforcement, and 2 other alleged victims. Now, 5 people commit suicide? Can that possibly be a coincidence, Mark Epstein?
Well, there's also other things that raise the question. Like also a few days after the death, Bill Barr, the then Attorney General, came out publicly and stated that he saw the video and he saw that nobody went in or out of the tier, and that convinced him it was a suicide. And when I heard that, I thought, this is ridiculous. I thought, why is the Attorney General himself watching this whole night-long video? Couldn't he have somebody in his office watch it? and say, hey, Bill, nobody went in or out. That was number one. And number two, to assume that he was, it was a suicide because nobody went in or out when there were 12 other prisoners on that tier that would not have to go in or out of that door if they were going to kill somebody on the tier. And I was told that cell doors were left unlocked that night. And I was also told by somebody who's familiar with the prison that they weren't surprised to hear that. So, and also to think that somebody could get to Jeffrey's tier, go inside, kill somebody, and then leave completely undetected, it's just like a stupid statement. That, that's not what you base it on. We can't find out who the other prisoners on that tier were. When did they get there? And where are they now? There's been no interviews of all the prisoners on the tier, which would normally be done in a situation like that. There's no record of that. So when I heard Bill Barr say that, and then, the forensic pathologist said they couldn't call it a suicide because it looked too much like a homicide. I mean, if you just looked at the facts of this and forget it was Jeffrey Epstein and forget the case against him for a minute, this doesn't look like a suicide. You would investigate this as a homicide. And then also the night when they locked up, but there's a record of, we know about the two guards that got in trouble, because they weren't doing the rounds, Tobin Noel and Michael Thomas. Now, Michael Thomas came on shift in the middle of the night. So he wasn't there when they locked up the tier. And there's never ever just one guard there. So in the report, there's a mention of an unnamed guard number one and an unnamed guard number two. The question is, who are they and why are they unnamed? Are they actual prison guards? Could they have been put there to kill somebody and then they disappeared into ether without any record of who they are? There's all these unanswered questions that in a normal, clear, honest case, even if it was a suicide, these questions would not be kept secret.
Take a listen to Dr. Michael Baden.
There were fractures of the left, the right, thyroid cartilage, and the left hyoid bone. I have never seen 3 fractures like this in a suicidal hanging. Sometimes there's a fracture of the hyoid bone or a fracture of the thyroid cartilage. Going over 1,000 jail hangings, suicides in the New York City state prisons over the past 40, 50 years, no one had 3 fractures.
I have questioned Dr. Michael Baden on many occasions, and he is truly brilliant. Joining me now is Joseph Scott Morgan, death investigator, professor of forensics, Jacksonville State University, author and star of Body Bags, the Joe Scott Morgan hit podcast. All that aside, he has investigated over 1,000 deaths, be they suicide, homicide, accidental, natural causes, all of them. Everything in the book, he's investigated it. Okay, Joe Scott, again, thank you for being with us. I need you, and I need you now.
Yep.
Explain what Baden's talking about.
Okay, before we get to what he said about the internal findings, it's very important, Nancy, that we understand the external findings on Epstein's body. When you have a hanging, okay, you begin to think about the body being supported, right? So we have a ligature here. We're talking about a hanging where an individual is supported. You've got a point of contact here, and you get a feature on the neck with hangings that's called tenting, T-E-N-T-I-N-G, not like car windows, but like a pup tent. The actual furrows go up behind the ears, Nancy. That doesn't exist with Epstein. It goes parallel to the shoulders. If you look at the ligature mark around his neck, and this is the external thing, you'll see this kind of dry, abraded area that runs parallel to his neck. Listen, to a person, when this happened, there were many of us that saw those images saying, this doesn't look like a typical hanging, okay? How in the hell do you explain that? Where does that come from? That's not something that you normally see. Here we have the hyoid. It's fractured. That's the greater horn, Nancy. That does happen with homicidal strangulations. Over the course of my career, Nancy, I've had one case that I recall that was not a homicide where I had a fractured hyoid, and that was a car accident with an old car where a guy fell off of an abutment, 3 stories, hit his neck on there. You have to have direct pressure. And then to think about that, that's going to be generated by this cloth that's on the floor. The deeper the furrow, the narrower the cord. They're trying to sell us this idea that this was, in fact, these strips of material that are torn up in this pigsty of a cell that this guy was living in. I don't see how you can make sense of it. The MEO investigators for the city
Hey,
yeah.
Joe Scott, hold on. You mentioned the disarray in his room. If I could direct the New York studio to please show the disarray in Epstein's cell. Dr. Dwayne Hendricks is joining us. He is the expert. Former Associate Warden, MDC Brooklyn, former Senior Warden, U.S. Department of Justice. This is not allowed, Dr. Hendricks. I've been in so many jails, penitentiaries, juvie jails, you name it, halfway houses, blah, blah, blah. I could go on. That's not allowed in a jail cell. That is not allowed for many reasons. Succinctly, explain why.
One, for sanitary reasons and safety reasons. I mean, they rip clothes to make clotheslines and different things of that nature. But when
No, I
someone
hate to
comes
be
to a
abrupt,
cell,
Dr. Hendricks. I like you, but that's not why. That is not allowed because we don't want to have a messy inmate. What? No.
safety and
It's not
security.
allowed
Safety
because
and
it's a
security.
danger.
It is. You're right. It's safety and security. And when someone walks up to that cell and looks through that little small window in that shoe cell, should have told him to take that stuff down, give me those extra seats, give me those extra clothes, and get this stuff out of the cell. There is no way that any
No
cell
way.
should
No
ever look
way.
like
This
an
looks
special housing
like
unit.
a teenage girl's nasty dormitory. Put the picture back up. Hendricks, don't you know how many inmates, how many would want to tear that sheet up and get a warden like you around the neck with it? That's why that is not allowed. And I have been in so many jails, again, Hendricks, I can't even count them. That I've never seen anything like that in my life. Why, Hendricks? Why?
This is obviously what we're seeing is a huge neglect in basic correctional fundamentals, and that's running a safe, humane, and clean environment. And there's no way that this individual should have had all those extra sheets, been able to accumulate all this extra material to put himself in an alleged position to commit suicide. So, in a nutshell, that is the reason
Or
why this should
be
have never
murdered.
happened.
Again, I don't know who his inmate neighbor was. We haven't been given those files. They're in the files that were going to be released. So, Joe Scott Morgan, what's the single most probative fact regarding Epstein's body?
I think probably this level of trauma that you're seeing that is just inconsistent with what Dr. Mike had said, Nancy, that this is not consistent with a suicidal event. This is consistent with what you see relative to a homicidal event. And it's not just that greater horn that's fractured there on the hyoid, Nancy. We also have bilateral cartilage fractures that are on either side. That requires a tremendous amount of pressure, either through a ligature that's directly applied or through throttling where the hands are used, and that is snap. You're not going to get this kind of dynamic